Hey, no woman dreams of a weak man pretending to be nice. She's drawn to something deeper, something primal. And if you don't understand the game of seduction, you're not just missing out, you're playing blind. Today, we're unpacking 5 lethal tools that silently trigger female desire, backed by the sharp mind of Geoffrey Miller. This isn't pickup nonsense. It's psychological warfare played with confidence, mystery, and masculine energy. Men who embody this become the ones women never forget, or stop chasing. If you skip this, you'll keep wondering why the guys who speak less get more. Let's break the silence and decode what really works. Here's where the behavioral game begins. The game of seduction. 5 lethal tools that trigger female desire. Most men still think seduction is about saying the right thing. They memorize scripts, rehearse pickup lines, and mirror behaviors like robots. But here's the truth. Women don't respond to performance, they respond to energy. More specifically, to masculine energy that carries confidence, presence, and a sense of silent dominance. That energy can't be faked. It leaks through your body language, your eyes, your breath. When a man gets that part right, words become secondary. She feels him before she hears him. And that changes everything. We're not here to talk about tricks. We're here to talk about tools, psychological weapons forged in evolution, sharpened by awareness, and deadly when mastered. Geoffrey Miller didn't write about dating hacks. He decoded desire triggers from a scientific lens, revealing what female psychology actually responds to. These are not soft skills. These are primal coded mechanisms deeply embedded in her instincts. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Most men operate blind. A high-value man operates with intention. Imagine you're in a room full of people. You say nothing, but every woman looks at you twice. Not because you're loud, but because your silence is loaded. That's strategic silence. One of the lethal tools we'll dissect in this journey. It's not about being quiet, it's about being deliberate. A man who controls the moment without filling it with noise emits power. And here's the twist. That unnerves her in the best possible way. She becomes curious. She starts watching. You just flip the dynamic. Here's what nobody tells you. The man who seduces most isn't the flashiest. He's the one she can't figure out. He's the mystery in the room. The one with layers, depth, and purpose she can sense but not access. That kind of man drives her imagination wild. And guess what? Women are far more turned on by what they imagine than what they see. If you hand her everything on a silver platter, she leaves. But if she has to decode you, she stays intrigued. This is where frame enters the scene. Your frame is the invisible lens through which you see the world, and make the world see you. Lose control of your frame and you fall into hers. Hold your frame, and she has no choice but to adapt to you. A weak man flexes in reaction. A strong man bends nothing. He decides the pace, the tone, the story. And that unshakable grip on reality, that's one of the red pill truths you either apply or ignore at your own risk. Let's talk about charisma, but not the fake life of the party kind. Real charisma is calm, magnetic, and rooted in emotional control. It's a man who knows his own mind, isn't swayed by chaos, and responds, never reacts. That's intoxicating. In a world where most men over-explain, over-apologize, and overcompensate, the one who speaks with precision and holds back more than he gives stands out like fire in the dark, and women feel that contrast deep in their nervous system. We'll get to the 5 tools, one by one. But first, you need to feel what's at stake. Every second you operate without this awareness, you're playing a game you don't even know exists. You think you're losing because you're not attractive enough. That's not it. You're not activating the right psychological edge. You're not moving with boldness, with purpose, with that silent fire that tells her, this man is different. Once you learn these tools, you'll never unsee what others are blind to. The first time a woman feels drawn to a man, it's almost never about what he said. It's about what he didn't say. That's strategic silence in action. Letting space create gravity. You don't interrupt, don't rush, don't explain unless needed. She leans in. Why? Because tension is addictive. Your restraint suggests depth, and your behavioral game becomes cinematic. Most men break the silence with insecurity. The high-value man uses it to expose hers. When silence is your ally, she'll talk, just to fill it. Another weapon? Dark triad traits, the misunderstood trio, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. No, not the toxic version. We're talking about the controlled edge, cold logic, self-prioritization, emotional detachment when needed. In small, refined doses, these traits signal dominance and high status. Women sense a man who could be dangerous, but chooses not to be. That contrast electrifies her instincts. You don't have to be reckless, just unpredictable enough to break the safe and boring pattern. Seduction thrives where danger whispers, not screams. Here's the part that most men overlook: self-mastery. You can't lead others if you haven't conquered yourself. Your habits, thoughts, reactions, they all broadcast signals. You want to trigger desire? Start by mastering your mornings, your fitness, your finances. A man who controls his life without bragging about it becomes visibly attractive. She watches your discipline. She sees how you handle chaos, and she imagines how you'd handle her. That's the power of quiet excellence. It builds masculinity without speaking a word. Let me tell you about Marcus, a guy in his late 20s, always the friend, kind, helpful, invisible, until he hit a wall, tired of watching other men take the women he secretly wanted. He stumbled onto this concept: don't chase, lead. He worked on his posture, started practicing strategic silence, read books on female psychology, and embraced his edge. No more approval seeking. Within months, women started noticing. One even said, "Something about you changed. You feel different." That's the shift. He didn't fake it. He became it. You see, Marcus didn't just learn theory. He took action. That's what matters. Watching videos isn't transformation. Applying them is. Start small. Hold your eye contact longer than usual. Speak slower. Cut filler words. Say no without explaining. Track how people respond. You'll notice something. The more emotional control you develop, the more others react emotionally to you. That's frame control, and it's addictive, not just for women, but for you. Because you'll finally feel what it's like to move with power. A man who truly understands this game doesn't need permission to be desirable. He doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses. That shift in energy is everything. It changes the way you enter a room. You no longer ask, "Do they like me?" Instead, you ask, "Do they fit my world?" That's masculine energy at work. Not aggressive, not needy, just centered. The storm could rage around you, and you'd still move like nothing's out of place. That kind of confidence is rare, and rare is attractive. Now, if you think this is just about getting girls, you've missed the point. This is about becoming the kind of man who commands desire effortlessly, because he's not trying to. It's the difference between performance and embodiment. Women aren't chasing the man who wants them. They're chasing the man who doesn't need them. That's status. That's presence. When you live in your own frame, your psychological edge isn't something you show. It's something she feels. And once she feels it, it's already too late. When a man learns to weaponize these traits, not manipulate, but embody, something shifts in the air around him. He walks into places differently. He's not desperate for validation, not thirsty for attention. He radiates quiet dominance. And that's when women begin to qualify themselves to him. They lean in, they wonder, they imagine. That's what seduction really is. Not words, but tension. Not performance, but presence. Not chasing, but drawing in. And we're just warming up. The tools get sharper from here. Let's be brutally honest. Most men operate in reactive mode. They wait to see how she feels before they decide how they show up. That's backwards. The man with boldness doesn't wait for a cue. He sets it. His behavior isn't filtered through what will she think, but through what aligns with who I am. That's when sexual polarity becomes electric. When a man is unshakably grounded in his purpose, women can't help but feel pulled. Not by logic, but by instinct. And here, a pause. Not because we're slowing down, but because what comes next could rewrite how you operate for the rest of your life. If this is resonating, if you're seeing patterns you never saw before, it's not by accident. These aren't just tips, they're tools of transformation. So if you've made it this far, it's because a part of you is waking up. Don't sleep on this. Hit that like button now, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel, because what's coming next will separate the boys from the men. Let's keep going. Let's go deeper into desire triggers. One of the most underrated, a man who knows how to challenge. Not argue, not insult. Challenge. Mentally, emotionally, and energetically. A woman who feels a man pushing her thinking, questioning her assumptions, creating sparks, stays. Why? Because seduction isn't comfort, it's tension. And tension lives in contrast. If you're always agreeable, you become predictable. And predictable is boring. She needs to feel your psychological edge, not your submission. That's where the game truly begins. Here's something counterintuitive. She wants to earn you. Not because she lacks confidence, but because value is defined by difficulty. When you're too available, too eager, too quick to give, you kill the suspense. Suspense is the currency of seduction. You don't need to act distant. You need to be selective. The high-value man doesn't give everyone access. That boundary creates gravity. She begins to ask, what's behind the curtain? And now you're living inside her mind, rent-free. That's behavioral game, mastered. Let's flip the lens for a second. Ever notice how some men walk in a room and people just notice? It's not luck. It's a cultivated presence. And it comes from owning your space, physically and energetically. Shoulders back. Eye contact steady. Movements intentional. Add silence to that mix, and suddenly you're unpredictable. Add purpose, and now you're unstoppable. This is what separates men who are nice from men who are remembered. And she remembers how you made her feel, not what you said. At this point, it's not about trying harder. It's about doing less, but better. Strip away the fluff. Stop overanalyzing every message. Stop chasing validation through texts, likes, or overcompensating gestures. A man with self-mastery knows his energy is precious. He invests it, doesn't spill it. He can sit in strategic silence and let the woman do the wondering. And when she wonders, she invests. When she invests, she becomes emotionally involved. And once she's emotionally involved, you're no longer just an option. There's a reason the quiet guy with sharp eyes often steals the spotlight. Not because he's loud, but because his frame is tight and his silence carries weight. This is the kind of man who doesn't beg for approval. He already owns it, internally. His energy says, I know who I am, and I know you're watching. That unspoken awareness is part of what triggers deep desire. Not because he's doing something specific, but because he's doing nothing needy. That contrast is unforgettable. You want to know what short-circuits female attraction instantly? Neediness disguised as niceness? The man who over-explains, over-compliments, and over-justifies his presence is trying to earn love instead of command respect. And here's the truth. Women feel that energy. It repels them, even if they don't understand why. That's why developing emotional control is non-negotiable. You don't seduce her by being available. You seduce her by being rare, and nothing is rarer today than a man who doesn't collapse under his own insecurity. Let's get real. Your words don't matter if your energy contradicts them. You could say, I'm confident, but if your tone is shaky and your body language is apologetic, she'll feel the lie. That's why masculine energy is rooted in embodiment. Practice holding tension, meditate in silence, do cold exposure, train your voice. All of that feeds your internal power, and she'll feel it without you saying a word. Seduction starts when your presence communicates what your mouth doesn't need to explain. Many men try to control the woman, but forget to control the room. True dominance isn't about forcing anyone to do anything. It's about commanding attention through status, stillness, and decisiveness. You walk in, you scan, you speak second, you respond slowly. That calm control shifts dynamics. Suddenly, she's watching you. She's trying to decode what you're thinking. That moment, when she's studying you instead of you studying her, is when the sexual polarity flips. That's when attraction gets dangerous. Don't get it twisted. Mystery isn't about being secretive, it's about depth. Depth creates curiosity. Curiosity fuels pursuit. When she realizes there are layers she hasn't accessed yet, she wants to keep peeling them back. But if you give her your entire story in one night, there's nothing left to chase. So leave breadcrumbs, not the full map. Let her earn access. Let her wonder. That's where the magic of seduction lives, in what's hidden, not what's exposed, and what's felt, not explained. Here's something radical. Don't always text her back. Don't always say yes. Don't always be emotionally available. Why? Because when you're too accessible, you teach her to devalue your presence. The man who understands behavioral game knows how to create space, not out of fear, but out of strategy. That space builds desire. It creates a void that she'll want to fill. And when she starts pursuing, the entire game changes. You're no longer trying to win her attention. She's working to keep yours. A man's greatest asset isn't his looks, money, or words. It's his psychological edge. That edge is born from failure, from rejection, from choosing to stay calm when everything in you wants to react. It's sharpened through discipline, isolation, and choice. When she senses that you're a man who could destroy but chooses to build, who could dominate but chooses to protect, she feels safe and intrigued at the same time. That duality creates emotional tension, and tension is the trigger. Let's talk about purpose. Not some vague dream, but the fire behind your eyes. When a man walks with purpose, he doesn't just look different, he moves different. He's not here to impress her. He's here to fulfill something bigger. And that, ironically, is what draws her in the most. Women are biologically wired to be drawn to men on a mission. Why? Because status, security, and power orbit purpose. She'll chase the man who chases something else. That's the paradox. That's the truth. Attraction isn't something you ask for. It's something you evoke. It lives in your posture, in your breathing, in how still you stay when things get tense. A man who can hold that stillness, who can breathe through rejection, discomfort, and silence, becomes unforgettable. That's self-mastery in real time. You want to trigger her desire? Trigger your own self-respect first. Because no woman will ever respect a man who disrespects his own energy. And women don't fall for chaos. They fall for control. The final tool isn't a trick. It's a state. It's the ability to be unapologetically you. No filters, no performances, no rehearsals. Just truth. Raw, clear, centered. A man who's not selling himself becomes irresistible. Why? Because in a world of masks, his authenticity is rare. And remember, rare is attractive. Women don't remember perfection. They remember presence. The way you made them feel, the way your masculinity met them with honesty, that's a legacy. That's how seduction becomes identity. So now you've seen the blueprint. The 5 lethal tools aren't just techniques, they're principles, they're frameworks. And when integrated, they reshape not just your game, but your entire life. You stop asking, how do I get her to like me? And start asking, how do I sharpen myself until I'm undeniable? That's where charisma becomes effortless. That's where frame becomes unbreakable. That's where dominance becomes silent. And from there, everything changes, because now she's the one adjusting to you. Most men won't get this far. Not because they can't, but because they won't commit. They'll watch, agree, nod, and go back to autopilot. But not you. If you've made it here, something inside you has already shifted. You've tasted what it feels like to operate with psychological edge, to embody masculine energy, to hold your presence like a blade. That alone separates you from 95% of men out there. But knowledge without action is nothing. So here's the real test. What will you do? You now hold a lens that shows you exactly why some men dominate effortlessly, while others fade into the background. It's not magic, it's strategy, energy, and awareness. The red pill truth is this. Women respond to what you are, not what you say. And when you shift from validation seeking to self-rooted clarity, you become the desirable man. Not because she says so, but because you feel it first. That internal shift rewires every interaction from this point forward. Welcome to the upper tier. The game of seduction isn't won with words, it's won with alignment. When your actions, energy, and identity all flow in the same direction, she senses it. She wants to be near it. And more importantly, she doesn't forget it. You're not here to please, you're here to lead. So lead with strength, lead with clarity. Lead with silence if needed, but always lead from within. Because once you master these tools, you don't chase desire, you become it. So now the question is simple. Are you going to let this just be another video, or is this the line where you finally flip the switch? Because here's the brutal truth. Women already know who the desirable men are. They feel it in their gut. And if you're not one of them yet, it's not because you don't have what it takes, it's because you haven't activated it. Start small, hold the silence, walk slower. Stop chasing and start choosing. Apply just one of these tools this week and watch how the energy shifts around you, because it will. Now tell me, which of these tools hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below using this phrase. That was the tool I needed. I'll be reading everything you write. And hey, thank you for staying with me until the end. That already tells me you're different. If this video shook something awake in you, like it, share it with a brother who needs this, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a lesson again. Your evolution just got real. Let's keep going.